How you doing? This episode of the POLIT'AI CHI, kind of a special one because I don't normally go to this much trouble when it comes to politics of the center left and center right, but in this case it has to be done. There's a lot's been being said lately in the media about how this latest incarnation through the evolution of Islamism. I'm not saying that, I'm just quoting the terminology per se. How they're using social media, how they seem to have the connotation, or at least the tone is implied, how there's this stranglehold vis-a-vis through social media. So we're going to put it on the record how this is all effed up, and the United States government does not reflect a lot of us citizens, even those in the center. I'm a centrist total Taoist, but get to these figures here in a minute. What's coming up here? Really good discussion from him. Alright, looking smug as usual, dick. Yeah, I'm from the Northern Rockies. He does not represent Wyoming well. And yeah, I tried to find a smug shot of Karl Roves with this permanent double alien goiter going on there. Couldn't find one. It's not me trying to find a bad shot of him. They were all bad. Freeze framed. Then you got your full bird here from Guantanamo, not approving of their definitions. Dick Cheney talked about, well, I'm okay with that. At 25% apparently yielded up nothing. Way to show off your humanist tendencies there. Dick can't even shoot a shotgun right. And of course, the poster boy for why there should never be geeks allowed in government. I mean, are you kidding me? Here? Because what happens is they get into a position of power they never had before. They're going to get back at the world for having been picked on when they were in junior high. Alright, that's my take on it. A lot of us citizenry do not approve. CIA contracting out to private contractors, or the CI bleepity bleep A. People becoming millionaires off of what? No, there's a lot of us citizenry. I'm just putting that out on the record. So let's be clear about that. We do not approve. Thanks for watching.
Dick Cheney's not a lawyer, and as he told NBC's Chuck Todd when defending inhumane treatment of detainees, he is not a doctor. He insists that the CIA's enhanced interrogation program, including practices that do meet the standard of illegal torture, were all legal, because his lawyers told him so.
You can look for various definitions. We did what was, in fact, required to make certain that going forward we were not violating the law. And the law, as interpreted by the Justice Department, the Office of Legal Counsel, was very clear.
Not quite. Cheney is referring to a special wing of the Justice Department that tells the president what is legal, and it's true that the Bush administration got some of those lawyers to authorize a few techniques that were once illegal. But as the Senate report documents, there was a revolt over those authorizations. Some were withdrawn early in the Bush administration, others canceled when Eric Holder took over DOJ. So the best defense Cheney has today relies on invalid, discredited torture memos from a long time ago. And faced with CIA documentation that many detainees were wrongly held, Cheney's answer was, who cares?
I'm more concerned with bad guys who got out and were released than I am with a few that, in fact, were innocent.
25% of the detainees, 25% turned out to be innocent. They were innocent.
Where are you going to draw the line, Chuck? How are you going to know?
Is that too high? Is that you're okay with that margin for?
I have no problem as long as we achieve our objective.
Joining me now, a public servant a little closer to the action, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Morris Davis, former chief prosecutor for military commissions at Guantanamo. Really an honor to have you here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
First, your thoughts of Cheney's defense there.
It wasn't much of a defense. I mean, certainly if I was him and had this report came out that documented war crimes that I was responsible for, I would try to dissemble the way that he did. But, you know, it's clearly, I think for Republicans, it's a choice. Do you side with Dick Cheney or Ronald Reagan? Because Ronald Reagan's the one that presented the Convention Against Torture to the Senate and said that this is a practice that has to end.
Right, and that's why torture was illegal under the law. Jack Goldsmith, who served in that Bush Justice Department, in that wing we were talking about, didn't quite agree with this whole thing. Let me play some of that sound right now.
These opinions came to my attention. I thought they had a lot of legal errors in them, both in statutory interpretation and in the interpretation of the Constitution. So it's a combination of the errors and the really excessively broad claims in the opinions that led me to take steps to withdraw them.
What should our brave folks, whether they're CIA, military, or otherwise, do when they get that kind of pseudo-authorization?
Well, I blame the accountability ought to be at the top, so it should start with the White House and percolate down from there. But there were others in the administration, in the Pentagon and the State Department, that pushed back and said that John Yoo and Jay Bybee had been wrong in their legal assessments. But the White House just set those people aside, and they cherry-picked the opinions that they wanted, and they marched forward with that, and they're trying to use it now, as cover to cover up war crimes.
Yeah, and I thought the report was devastating to the idea that if you get a permission slip from your lawyer, that automatically covers you. The report shows how there was so much misdirection and deceit towards those lawyers. If you tell your lawyer, I want to build a deck on my house, and then you build a skyscraper, your authorization for the deck doesn't keep you, out of court. The other piece, though, very important, was this entire back and forth at the time with the CIA getting mad that Bush was saying that they were treating people humanely. Let me play that.
Take, for example, waterboarding. In waterboarding, unlike World War II, where the Japanese attempted to drown people by basically pouring water in their mouths, here the feet were elevated so where there's little or no chance of any fluid getting into the lungs, and very careful standards set in place so that these would help break the resistance of the detainee without placing their life in danger.
I want to be absolutely clear with our people and the world. The United States does not torture. It's against our laws and it's against our values. I have not authorized it and I will not authorize it. Last year, my administration worked with Senator John McCain and I signed into law the Detainee Treatment Act, which established the legal standards for treatment of detainees wherever they are held. I support this act.
The book in there is Karl Rove This Weekend with Bush in 2006. The report shows, what did you make of this, that the CIA didn't want Bush saying those things, didn't want him saying we don't torture?
Yeah, I think they were very uncomfortable about it. And again, I think it's important to remember that the CIA largely contracted this effort out. It was primarily civilians who carried out the program. Many people became millionaires off of this program. And now you've got this circular. I saw an interview with John Yoo where he said, look, I was just a lawyer. I didn't make decisions. And you had President Bush saying, hey, I'm no lawyer. I just did what the lawyer said. So no one is accountable for making the decision to go down the road to torture.
You say accountable. Should the president fire the CIA director, Brennan?
Well, that's a tough one. I admire Brennan for the other day when he admitted that there was no connection between waterboarding Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in 2002 and then finding Osama bin Laden a decade later. But certainly there ought to be accountability. The president can't stick with this, I'm going to look forward, not back. We have an obligation to investigate and prosecute allegations of torture, and you can't just pretend that it didn't happen.